So I think he achieved that. He kind of returned, not fully, but he was able to return to the presence of the international community. And I think he kind of slightly avoided being accused of genocide, or he kind of avoided that. But financially, he's not getting anything. The international community is not, the IMF,
Yes.
World Bank are not giving him anything. And I think the economy is
Yeah.
coming to him. So my take is, the reason TPLF was brought down by Opidio is because they went after Addis Ababa, which was the main financial resource for Opidio cadres. They were able to sell the land around Addis Ababa without any oversight, and they were making money out of that. And Arkabe and his friends came up with that master plan, which created all this Kero movement, the Opidio protest movement, and it brought Abiy back into power. It brought Opidio to power. I think when the economy starts crunching, it has already started. The inflation is getting out of control. More Opidio cadres would demand again. All the Amharic cadres in NDM will still want more, and they're not going to get anything because he won't be able to feed, just like Haile Selassie failed to feed his army. He's going to fail to feed his cadres and his army. And the Opidio cadres are just unique in their appetite.
So, yeah. Okay, so you have a lot to say about that. Maybe not today. But
not today, yeah. But my point is, I think the good grace he was able to get from the international community in terms of avoiding, international criminal court charges or whatever, did not translate into financial support as much as he wanted, or as much as he plans to keep his power. I think that's another front that he's not seeing. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. So the economy is a disaster. As you can imagine, what's going to happen after years of devastating war without any international financial support. So anything can happen. They're now as active in the black market dollar the dollar market. So you can see what they're trying to do, but I don't think. Again, when you think this was enough, they're now trying to build whatever it is. I don't know. It's so close to a trillion. It's a $15-16 billion palace. So what do you make of that? So I don't know. Sometimes I think these people are crazy, but sometimes other times they surprise me. So it's very, very confusing. And also, so the international community. One thing that maybe we might want to discuss is the role of the international community, whatever that community is. It's the U.S. and the Western countries, whatever that group is. The way they understand Ethiopia is very problematic. That's, I think, you kind of touched up on that point earlier. I think they have to kind of reconsider what their views, their kind of about Ethiopia, their understanding of the history and politics of Ethiopia. The reason I say that is they understand Ethiopia through kind of an ethno-nationalistic perspective. Okay, there's this group, a dominating group, the kind of colonizing, whatever imperial group, the Amhara. So we're dominating, colonizing the rest of Ethiopia, except from Tigray for centuries, and now this is now payback time. So what are we going to do about it? So basically, that's one of the reasons that they really don't care about what's happening and the massacre and the genocidal violence that's against the Amharic. They don't say anything. Okay, I did not expect them to be kind of this human rights activist or advocates, but at least from a diplomatic perspective, from a geopolitical perspective, that's not going to help them. That's a losing game, I think. So one thing they might want to at least think about it is that the way they understand Ethiopia, because there are so many reasons why I say that. That's I think we can talk about that, but we don't have the time to discuss all those reasons. But I'm certain how they understand Ethiopia, and then their understanding, their reading of Ethiopian is really deeply problematic, and then they need to change that. And if they don't, I think it's going to boomerang on them. It's going to come back and bite them. Whatever they want in that region, it's going to be the opposite of this. They're not going to get any stability. So they're trying to support TPLF after they caused all that destruction. They, for some reason, believe they could TPLF win the war, rehabilitate and go back to Arat Kilo and rule the country again. That's really says to me that's kind of that's unbelievable.
I think first of all, we have to admit we all Ethiopians have brought this to ourselves. In a sense, we created the contemporary Ethiopia, in this ethnic federalism, in a way they would prefer to understand it. Let's not forget, no matter what, the West, for whatever, call it colonial or whatever reasons, have always preferred to engage Africa through the ethnic or the clan prism. That has been the legacy of British.
Yes.
And then Ethiopia had the best chance not to do that. And thanks to Meles Zenawi and his revolutionary colleagues of Oromo nationalists, or even some Amharic,
the Ethiopian student
movement, we have created a perfect ethnic mess they would like. So let's first own this part of our problem. This is our creation. I mean, I don't mean to say there are no foreign interests or there are no foreign elements, but we have to take the primary responsibility. That's one thing. The second thing is we have failed to, let's call it the Ethiopianist movement or the Ethiopianist group, we have failed to create a sustained narrative, a sustained institutional framework, sustained organizations that could warn them on the direction, or even at least, a sustained, coherent criticism of the ethnic federalism has not been brought about, or, have not been put forward by the Ethiopianist campaign. This we have to admit. And those who support the ethnic federalism have done a lot in promoting it.
Yes.
Than those of us who...
And there's also a conducive environment for nationalist narratives in the West. Yeah.
But we haven't done our homework. That's the third thing. I think their experience, the American experience, say in Yugoslavia, their experience in other parts of the world, especially Yugoslavia, in Russia, in how to deal with ethno-nationalists, has not warned them enough to understand the Horn and especially Ethiopia. I don't think they're ready for the kind of human calamity, human cause,
Yeah.
and the kind of refugee crisis it would bring about,
Yeah.
and the kind of, and even more than the Americans, the Europeans, they are the closest things to the region physically, and the kind of refugee flood it's going to open if
And the instability.
it will engulf. Imagine, right in front of our eyes, Sudan has become I don't even know what to say.
At least a failed state.
I mean,
it's a civil war.
Yes, it's a civil war that started at the center, at the capital.
Yeah.
And this is why South Sudan is what is South Sudan. Add to that what's going on into Sudan. And if Ethiopia follows, if the domino effect, the domino effect follows Ethiopia and Eritrea,
Eritrea would be on much the same problem.
We'll discuss Eritrea some other time.
Yeah, but
my point is,
okay, go ahead.
Because even Eritrea itself, like, it's the grip of Isaias
that's what I'm talking about.
But once he's gone,
and then you never know what's going to happen there.
So
Eritrean nationalism, as kind of passionate as it is, and as recent as it is, but it's not it's not very, very strong. I think.
But my point is, I don't think the West, and especially Americans, have given it a thought to the kind of crisis they will create in Horn of Africa by supporting TPLF. Right away after I was released from prison, I was able to attend a kind of meetup with some American officials from the embassy and other institutions. And what I told them was, okay, you've won Abiy, you've secured them in your pocket, but you've lost Ethiopians. One of the things I think this is a much more Democratic Party problem rather than just an overall American problem, even though there is that element. The Trump administration, at the beginning of the war, the Trump State Department was much more kind of balanced, playing a balanced hand in regards to criticizing TPLF and Abiy Ahmed and Prosperity Party. But once Joe Biden's administration came, the whole blame became...
There was a kind of a significant
shift.
Yeah, yes.
So I think the Americans underestimate, especially the current administration, underestimates how much face they have lost among the rest of Ethiopians by siding with TPLF on every topic. And one of the things that I told them was that there is now brewing of anti-American attitude in Ethiopia, and already that sentiment is very strong in Eritrea, very strong in Somalia. And then when you add that sentiment into the Horn of Africa, I think, and I'm scared, this would be the second time. Jimmy Carter lost Ethiopia for Soviet Union, and I think whatever force is going to be there in the world, Americans could lose the footing, and that's not good for us. For example, look at how Ethiopians reacted for Isaias' reception in China recently. I mean, I was amazed. And look at how China is using this anti-American sentiment and entering into the...
Yeah, that's right. This is kind of a broader criticism of American foreign policy. They're losing, I think, it's ground in many areas of the world. Like, for example, the Saudis trying to make peace between Russia and Ukraine.
Yes.
So the Americans are kind of leaving, maybe pushed out. I don't know. Maybe I think it's just the better word is they left. It's left for other players to come in.
They've
and
created a
influence. So China is so we know that China is very big. So it's a kind of a global power. But in the smaller power, there's the UAE, Turkey, and so there's lots of groups. It's a really kind of interested in that area. So there's conflicting interests of different as power players in the region. So they're not they're not even kind of able to, I think, figure out what's going to happen, given that they don't have the kind of the control that they used to have in the region, kind of the influence they had. I don't think they have it now, for one of the reasons that you mentioned. So that's one way to look at it. Because the China thing is clear. The Chinese were really wanted to make it clear that they want to go against the Americans. The way they welcomed President Isaias is, you saw it.
Yes.
And the way they welcomed Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, kind of there's a really sharp contrast. So I think so whatever the West is thinking, the way that they're looking at the country, Ethiopia, is problematic, in my opinion, I think.
But
including the Europeans, when I say
yes.
the West, yeah.
But what could convince them otherwise before the at least to engage? One of the reason I say this is because Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed was playing the Ethiopianist camp, or as a leader or a member of that camp, and he just jumped ship and went back to his original position of being a TPLF puppet.
He's an amazing guy.
No, I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
If you are an American policymaker, where's the focal quote unquote Ethiopianist or any other group? What could they do that that could help them reestablish themselves? What do you think? What are the steps, at least, if not the whole?
I think they have to be open-minded, I guess. Okay, I'm not expecting them to look at Ethiopia from kind of a humanitarian, whatever perspective. That's not how geopolitics works.
Yes.
Although there are some element of human concerns, but they might want to look at the Ethiopia in a different light than they used to. Okay, there's the also undeniable fact that this American politics is complicated, and foreign policy is influenced by the kind of the American political system, which, as you know, is not perfect. Let's put it that way. It's deeply flawed. But still, they might want to pay attention to what's going on in Ethiopia. Really, what really surprised me is, it's not that they lack kind of evidence, information, or whatever. I think they're the most knowledgeable people in American policy, foreign policy makers, about any area in the world, given their power, intelligence, and everything. So it's a WikiLeaks that you know, but they can start try to deal with the prime minister kind of differently. If they have to put pressure on, they're trying to put pressure on the prime minister just to help the TPLF, mostly, at least until maybe recently. But they have to understand him kind of clearly. I think that maybe there's kind of willfully ignoring what's going on, what he's doing. Okay, we know our leaders, so I don't think there has never been any Ethiopian king or military leader or whoever, Meles Zenawi, who actually used, kind of cheated on based on ideology. Okay, they could tell whatever we say. Okay, they could talk about democracy, but it could be dictatorial. Okay, we understand that one. But he is unique among Ethiopia's leaders to say something about Ethiopia and then to say kind of acting like an Ethiopianist and then kind of presenting himself as an Ethiopianist, kind of his public persona and whatever he talks about as an Ethiopianist, but in actuality, what he does is a radical Oromo nationalist, and a violent one. So they need to understand that one. But if they still look at Ethiopia from an ethno-nationalist perspective, I don't think that's going to make a difference. But a combination of the kind of those two adjustments might help them. Okay, there are also other areas that we can talk about, but as long as we're talking about Ethiopia, that's I think a good way to start.
And that's one thing. And the other thing I can remember now, one of the good points they've been mentioning, not insisting or pushing, is mentioning as the reform of the Constitution. Even Secretary Blinken mentioned that when he visited Addis last time. So that topic, they could insist on that topic, and they could garner a lot of support among many different Ethiopians, and that could that's one thing. The second thing,
but that could be counterproductive from kind of at least from a short-term perspective.
Yeah, but
a different topic anyway.
That's one thing they can do. Yeah. The second thing I see they can do is, one, they have ignored in some cases even. Okay, first of all, they have ignored Oromia region. Like,
what do you mean ignored?
That's I'm coming back to that. First of all, there have not been strong reports on the kind of humanitarian crisis the administration and OLF are committing in Oromia on non-Oromos and Oromos as well. The conundrum of Oromo nationalism for me and what I see in Oromia is, supposedly you have, for example, when TPLF was ruling Ethiopia, at least Tigray was at peace. Whether it was treated with favor or not is another topic, but in terms of security,
peace and security
was not a question. Yeah. Oromia is a mess. That's like, people don't know how much hell Oromia has become for anyone.
Yeah. And how much worse it's going to get.
It's going to get. Yeah. That's one thing. I mean, Washington Post just published a story about how OLF is operating in some regions as a bandit, or, the confusing nature of OLF. That's the first time you've seen Oromia, the crisis in Oromia caused by the Prime Minister and OLF highlighted by a major media like this. Yes, there has been some reports of massacres that are been orchestrated against Amharics. Some. It's not enough to the scale of the damage.
No, there's a genocidal violence.
Yes, there's not that much report. And another thing, the UN. And I was looking at the UN report on the Tigray war. First of all, it's only focused on Tigray. If you've seen the human cost it has, this call it transition or the coming power of Obidio, why is not Oromia included? Even the document only has English, Amharic into doing it. That shows you even how the focus is very much limited.
Why do you think that is?
For example, OLF fighters were complaining that Eritrean fighters are involved even in some fights in Oromia, which means if you focused on Eritrea's involvement in the Ethiopian war, why are you only focused on Tigray but not ignore the largest region, the most populous region,
and politically the most dominant region? Yeah.
You have all the reason to see.
To pay attention to that.
Pay attention to that. And there's not anything. And if they...
Do you have any opinion on that one?
Let me be quiet. Let me jump this. Let me skip this.
Yes.
No, I mean, let me just focus on this. So one of the things the international community or the West can do is actually also focus on the humanitarian crisis, the massacres, the genocidal violence that this government, OLF, whoever OLF is committing in more than
but which obviously they're not. They don't seem to be interested in.
I think one of the reasons we can confidently say about TPLF, one, it has a very long history of foreign relation expertise.
But definitely,
Next to EPLF, among many other organizations.
Exactly. It's sorry to interrupt, but the best explanation that I have for the American commitment to the TPLF cause is the kind of individual diplomats and former.
That's one thing.
From a policy perspective, it really doesn't make sense to me. Go ahead. Sorry.
That's what I say. Foreign relations. They had a very strong personal network among very powerful decision.
We can name names actually. Kind of a high profile as a high ranking.
Let's not do that. Because I think that topic deserves a proper investigative journalism work. A very detailed, because you can trace the money, the personal relationships, the interests, and how that was established and how that is affecting American foreign policy. Because this is not unique. This is not unique into Ethiopia. American politics can be hacked through money and other means. So we can say that. But I prefer to, instead of naming names here, I prefer to do, when in possible, a proper journalistic work, document it and expose it.
That's important.
This is not the forum.
That's not. I see your point.
I think this is our discussion for today. Do you have any questions?
Maybe.
Anything?
What do you want to say about whatever? If you have anything to say, I'm not saying you have to explain it in any detail, but your prison experience in Ethiopia, there's a lot of viewers expect you to say something, at least to say why you're not saying anything about it.
I think the one of the thing I can say is it's been very, very. It's 118 days. It's not a lot compared to what many Ethiopians go through or have gone through. So, one thing I can say is I'm very lucky that it.
Yes, we are one of the lucky ones.
The lucky ones, and the intent was not just to put me in prison. And the best way to discuss it is on another program, just to fully dedicate this topic. And
did it? Okay, so again, I have to jump in.
Okay.
Did your experience influence your political views in any way? Any changes that?
No, I just scared me even more for what's coming to Ethiopia. Because I had one famous program when I say Oromia state should be dismantled. Oromia is already dismantled. I mean, it's
that was a pointless demand.
It was a kind of pointless. If you've seen how a single police station operates, I was able to see the first 7 days I was on a block site. The second time I was in a police station, and the third time I was transferred to a prison. And when you see how the institution work, when you interact with the prisoners, be it political or just petty crime or serious crime, the way the justice system works, the legal system works, the political system works in Oromia is just, that's a whole different.
That's a whole.
So I'm just saying, from what I see, the first thing is this ethnic federalism. I don't know about Amhara region, or I don't know about other regions, but at least Oromia is
I think it's a most, I guess, Oromo nationalists think there's such a thing as kind of the unified, cohesive Oromia, whatever nation. That's the kind of the idea of nation. That's okay. It's one of the topic of my dissertation. Kind of one of the most incoherent, and then the fake views, kind of fake notions. But it's worse even for the so-called Oromia. So because it's how it was made, how it was constructed, and the history. So there's all kinds of fault lines: religious, regional, economic, even linguistic. So it's going to get worse, much worse than the rest of the country, I guess. So they might want to think about that for a moment. We're going to talk about this maybe in another program, but I just wanted to throw out that.
Yeah. So we've touched a lot of things. I think this is our first podcast, and people would forgive us.
Yeah, maybe get confused and right.
Next time we plan to be much more organized.
Yeah, organized. Yeah. So, but for a first program, I thought
it went well.
We're okay.
And I think if you had a lot of wine,
that would be great.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, actually.
Have a good day.